Hey Taurus, welcome to your February 2018 tarot reading with me, Raphael Ray from Radiant Reality. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for all of your continued support, your likes, your shares, subscribes, even those of you that have donated to the channel. It means the absolute world. Thank you so much. So, before we start, I would like to call in, as always, to both of these decks, all forms of love, light, peace, prosperity and abundance. And I hope that the messages that come through are ultimately clear and concise and they help you on your path to your highest vibrational good. So, I said I would be doing new things in the new year. I started with the yearly predictions. I really hope you're still enjoying those and loving those as much as I did creating them. And also, as you can see, things have changed. There's going to be new content, new discussions, new talks, new ideas and new ways of doing things, and I really hope you enjoy them. And as I said, thank you so much for your support. So, for the month of February, your actions and interactions with the world at large. You have the Page of Cups. So Taurus, this is very much you getting involved in your artistic and creative endeavours. But more importantly, it's about you tapping into your imagination and your intuition. So the Page of Cups could be a water sign child. It could be a Pisces, Cancer or a Scorpio. I don't know where I was going with Aries or Aquarius there. It could be a child of that nature, or as I like to call the pages, because they're very similar to the aces, but the pages for me carry more about your, I believe they're more about your consciousness, and I call them markers of consciousness. This is about where your mind is, what you're going to be focused on, what you're going to be thinking about, and this is about your actions. This is about you demonstrating how intuitive, how imaginative, how creative you can actually be. This is about your interactions with the world, and it's kind of like the month of February is giving you the platform to say to people, hey, I'm not just practical, I'm not just grounded, steady and stubborn, I'm not just that, I'm actually a multifaceted being, and a big part of who I am is my intuition, is my imagination. Now, yeah, alright, so Taurus is the bull. They work steadily and you know, methodically towards what it is that they want. But how do you do that? You do that by envisioning what you want. You can only envision something if you can imagine it, and you can only imagine something if you have an intuition. Follow that process. This is, I got tingles up the back of my neck when I said that. You know, watch this video and watch it well, because there's obviously something in there for you. When I get the tingles, I know that I am giving you some kind of wisdom that is coming from a higher source. So I just got the tingle. Listen to this. This is about your interaction, because your actions, the lightning bolt, you know, doing, action, electricity, whatever, your actions is ruled by fire, and your fire is what is, you know, it's about your willpower, and your willpower comes from the divine spark within every single person. And this month it's about you really taking the time to look at how intuitive you are, how your imagination shapes your reality or your interactions with people. You know, what is it that forces you to act the way that you do? And this is very much you. And the other part of the Page of Cups that I really love is it's about observing your emotions, what you really feel and why you really feel it. And you know, this will work on many levels within your life. It's not just going to be about your actions and what you do. This is going to be about your interactions with the world at large. It's going to be about how people see you doing what you do. Whether that's work, whether it's sports, whether, you know, whatever it is that you do, it's about acknowledging how you do it. You know, and that's on a personal level, and it's going to be about how people receive you doing those things as well. So this is a really great month, because people start to see a different side of you, and when people start to see different sides of you, they start to trust you more, because they can start to relate to you more. So yeah, it's a really great month for your actions and interactions. Let's see what February has in store for your money and your materials. The Eight of Swords. Okay, so this may well be a month where you have to tighten the belt. You know, this may well be the month where you have to really start to say to yourself, okay, I've got to get sensible about my finances, I've got to get committed about improving my financial situation. And for you guys, that's really important, because it's about security. You know, and Taurus is all about security. You guys need stability and security, especially on a material level. The other thing as well, because your money and your materials doesn't necessarily just mean, you know, your prosperity or your wealth. It can talk about your body. It can also talk about your food intake, what you're eating. This is going to really kind of give you a wake-up call this month. It's going to be about, have you limited yourself? And that's what I'm kind of getting from this. It's about, you've got kind of almost stuck in a rut of your diet. So you eat certain types of food and you enjoy certain types of food, but you don't really step outside of that. This is about expanding that. It's about expanding your intake. You know, what do you get from food? You know, you get nutrients and sustenance, and you know, it's actually just nice to eat. I've obviously been doing a little bit of too much of that, but you know, jokes aside. The Eight of Swords is about restriction, constriction, confinement. It can also represent imprisonment. And so for that reason I say this is going to be a month where you have to tighten the belt, where you have to maybe, you know, not be so, not necessarily not be so generous, but it's not about reaching for your wallet to resolve all of your problems this month. You need to find other solutions, you know, practical ways of doing things, which is what you guys are all about. In terms of your materials, in terms of food and stuff, I feel like this is about you, it's kind of like you're in a rut. You eat what you eat and you kind of leave it at that. Get out there and enjoy different types of food, you know, indulge in different types of food, and ask, you know, get involved with people as well, you know, ask them to show you different ways of making things as well, you know, and if you know people of different cultures, you've got friends, ask them to teach you how to cook other things. For those of you, in terms of your moving situation or your living situation, this kind of talks to me, it's almost like you're feeling restricted in the place that you live. What can you do about that? And if you can't do anything about it, you're probably looking at the next 8 months. The next 8-month cycle will be when you start to really think, okay, I need to get out of here and I want to go to somewhere else. But in terms of money and finances, money and materials, it's not a bad month, it's just a month where it is restricted. Okay, so your communications and your interactions with people. Let's see. The Devil. Okay, so this isn't actually a bad card. Whenever people see it, they tend, you know, when I read for people, you get like a, ooh. And I think a lot of it's to do with the negative connotations that the words have. You know, the devil. You think of Christianity, and then people think about this guy. What does the devil represent? First of all, it represents the sign of Capricorn. So it talks very much about what you choose to accomplish and how you choose to get there. It's interesting that these two cards have come up together because they have very, very similar meanings, effects and energies. So the Devil card represents the sign of Capricorn, but it can represent things like fine wine, fine food, nice fabrics. It can represent you know, wanting to achieve and accomplish, wanting to be at the height of your game, wanting more than you already have. You know, it's got some really, really great and actually almost even spiritual connotations in that it talks about what you can choose to really put your nose to the grindstone in terms, you know, in spite or service, one of those, you know, in interaction with. So but also what it really represents is what you are unconsciously chained to. It's about what you're unconsciously, you know, like you would have made the decision to commit to something and then it would have become like a prison to you. And then you kind of stop enjoying that thing and you just do it because you feel like you have to. And that is what you want to avoid. When the Devil card shows up, it's trying to tell you you are attached to this in a negative, excuse the dualism, in a negative way. What can you do about changing or evolving that energy? How can you switch it up? How can you change it? The numerology of the card is the number 15. Number 15 gives you 6. This is actually the reverse of the Lovers. The Lovers represents choice. The Devil represents the absence of choice. It's like you can't see the wood from the trees because you've forgotten that it was you that went into the forest in the first place. You know, you've forgotten how to use your GPS and look at things from a bird's eye view. You're looking at the, oh no, all I can see is trees. So in terms of your communications, What this actually says is that you need to change your style of communication. And by changing your style of communication, you start to tap into more of who you actually are and more of what you really want to say. And more importantly, more of what you actually have to say. You know, there's a really deep wisdom to what's happening with your cards this month, which is really interesting. It's like people will see you differently when you remember that you are not what other people have built up around or of you. These two cards in conjunction talk about your money and your materials being restricted, and so therefore you can rely more heavily on your internal world and your internal gifts. These two cards coupled say that you're chained by something, you're restricted by something, and even when because we're talking about communications here, you're restricted in what you can say and how you can say it. And I kind of feel like this is coming from a person. This is somebody imposing on you. And the problem is, a part of you chose to allow that to transpire. And now you have to find some very intuitive or creative way of changing that. And saying, no, there is not a mould of who I am. I am all of who I am. And that is a very multifaceted being. I'm not, just the picture that you have built up of me from the pieces that I gave to give you of knowledge of who I am. Sorry to get deep, guys, but you know me by now. And then, your heart and your hearth. So this is about your relation. Oh, God. So there's two cards that popped out, and I will use both of them. The Two of Wands tells me that in terms of your emotions and your relationships, this is about you looking for some way out. This is about you looking for some way forward. For those of you that are single, this is about you deciding what kind of partner you want and what you are and what you are not willing to accept. For those of you that are already partnered, this is you saying to yourself on a deep fundamental level, things are either going to need to change or evolve, or I'm going to be off. Why do I say that? Because you are communicating with somebody at a distance about your relationship. And the interesting thing is the Eight of Wands is very much, it's all to do with your communications. It's messages, it's letters, it's text messages, it's internet, it's social media, it's communication in all ways, shapes and forms. And it's like you're addicted to one way of, not addicted to, but you're chained to one way of being seen, and it's starting to suffocate you. And in order to kind of get some release, you're looking outside of that to other places, to other sources, to remind you of who you actually are and what you're actually about. And then, when I see these two cards together, it kind of tells me that in terms of your emotions and your interactions, on an emotional basis, you are looking for deep change. And February is going to really give you an insight into how much you can change by changing how you respond to the world and showing them different assets that you have. Your key to the month. Strength. Well, look at that. Very, very interesting that you get the Strength card. Why do I say it's interesting? Because strength is all to do with your heart. It's all to do with your backbone. It's all to do with how you present yourself. It's how you put yourself on stage. It's about the courage that you find to be who you are. And it's about tapping into your inner joy, your inner creativity. And the thing about this is it's a human being, an innocent person, taming a lion. Your heart is, the heart represents the lion because it's wild, it's free, it's unfettered. It's supposed to be that way. You are supposed to be free in what you feel, what you express, how you say it. And this month you are realising some of the ways that you've created a bit of a trap for yourself, and you are not feeling free and you are not feeling liberated. And so therefore, by realisation of this stuff, this month you start to say, actually, I don't feel free anymore and I need to change that. And this will be the month where you do it. Big things will be set into motion for you this month, Taurus. And I believe that you will only go from strength to strength. I wish you an abundance of love, light, peace, prosperity and abundance itself. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your likes, shares, subscribes. Thank you for those of you that have donated. It means the absolute world. Have a great month, and I will see you very soon for more content.